Right, let's go straight to my next guest. He is a columnist for The Sun, The Sunday Times and The Spectator, and now he is a presenter on Times Radio every Saturday morning from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Welcome, Rod.
Hiya, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I caught some of your show, not all of it, but you're pretty good at this, Lark. I enjoyed very much your session with Ali Ross. I see you've become a TV critic now in the Sunday Times, and also with David Owen. So, yeah, good show. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I was terrified, obviously, but yeah, it was. I think it was a good show in the end. I mean, and I was awestruck by Lord Owen, of course. And Ali Ross is a mate,
yeah.
So it was a thoroughly enjoyable time. Got some good feedback, and I just hope that people found it mildly interesting rather than a crock of.
Yeah. By the way, I think Lord Owen wants you to be awestruck by him, so mission accomplished there. But it's a very interesting item, seriously. Right, let's get straight to it. Now, you wrote in The Spectator about who will join my war on liberalism. I will. I'll join. Let's talk about it, though. It is this madness that's still going on. These hand-wringing, white middle-class politicians, mainly, but also coppers, teachers, social workers, local councillors, who still think we're being a bit racist by focusing on the ethnicity of the Pakistani gang rapists.
Yeah. Whereas it's crucial to the case. And, you know, people are still wary of saying the word Islam or Muslim in relation to these horrible, violent and perverted actions which took place against hundreds and hundreds of girls across the country. We still can't say that, you know, the thing is, Kev, if it had been Methodists or Christadelphians or Roman Catholics who perpetrated these abuses, the ideology, the church, the religion would have been brought into question. You know, if nearly everyone had been of the same religion, people would have said, well, can we put two and two together? Well, what's going on here? Is there a link? And of course there's a link. you know there's a link. And so the same stupidity is still going on. And of course, as we mentioned last week, Kevin, you know, Sir Keir Starmer says that it's clambering on the right-wing bandwagon. It's exactly the same thing that was said by idiots like Starmer in 2005, 2006, which stopped the things being investigated then. Oh, you're climbing on a right-wing bandwagon if you want to investigate this. There's nothing to see here, move on. It is... And we can't seem to stop it. I was hoping that this liberal idiocy was in abeyance, and I think in many ways it is, certainly in Europe and certainly in the USA. But we seem to be the last bastion of its real fundamentalist stupidity.
And it is, you know, on last Friday in The Guardian, Wes Streeting, the health secretary, there he was saying, you know, that this rhetoric, as he called it, surrounding the ethnicity of the the rape gangs, could lead to a repetition of the mosque massacre like they had in New Zealand. What are we supposed to do then, Rod? Because it might lead to a massacre, we're not allowed to mention it.
And of course, Streeting is probably the best of them. Streeting is probably the best that Labour's got to offer. Yeah. And he is too thick to understand that there is a problem there with integration, with assimilation. Because, of course, we didn't integrate, we didn't assimilate because of people like Streeting. Because of people like Streeting, we didn't properly say, look, here are some British values, live by them. We didn't do any of that. We allowed them to put their religion ahead of their loyalty to the country, and their previous ethnicity ahead of their loyalty to our country. You wouldn't get that in most European countries. You certainly wouldn't get it in Pakistan or Bangladesh. Yeah. You know, and so this is decades of failure by a discredited and, I think, dying creed, which is, you know, the liberal multicultural view of the world. which doesn't exist. It has failed on every level.
Do you think, given that Keir and Wes and the gang still continue with this outmoded attitude, let's be careful here because we're talking about people of colour, we're talking about Muslims, we're talking about people who aren't British, so we have to be kind here. Do you feel that they, in so doing, they will be the architects of their own downfall come the next election?
Yes, I do. I think this whole creed is disappearing across the world. It's already disappeared from Europe almost entirely. It's disappearing very rapidly from the USA. Mm-hmm. All the equality, diversity, inclusivity stuff, all the horrible things which are done to make ordinary people who live in this country feel bad about themselves. It's all going away in every country apart from our own, and I think it will go away in our own as well. But, you know, in the meantime, what redress do the parents of those kids have? You know,
I mean, I agree with what you wrote, Rod. You know, I mean, most of me feels that justice for those kids, don't forget there are thousands, you know, whose abusers and rapists didn't get nicked. They're still out there. A lot of people think that this rape gang culture is still prospering, you know, in 50, 60 towns across Britain. Yeah. So a lot of me thinks, well, you know, a public inquiry, you know, would at least perhaps get them some kind of justice. But my problem with public inquiries is they never achieve anything, ever.
Well, they do. You're being very unkind. They achieve something when they're held 50 years after the events have taken place and everyone's dead. Yeah. That's when they really do achieve something. But you know what I do? I deport them all now that they were born in this country. Yeah, but come on. These are people from, by and large, Pakistan, sometimes Afghanistan. That is the country to which from which they have been inculcated in the way of life. Clear off back there. And if you think that's harsh, I spoke to the leader of a Muslim organisation, a very big Muslim organisation and a very decent bloke. And I said, what would you do about them? And he said, I would hang them all, every single one. You know?
Yeah, I'd go along with that. So that now the other action I'd like to see, I mean, you know, it's a long shot, but this is the action I genuinely would like to see that I do think would bring justice to the thousands of victims, the many thousands of victims. The scale of this scandal is extraordinary.
It is extraordinary.
And it's this, that we go through every copper, every teacher, every local council, every social worker, every politician that turned their backs because they were worried about being accused of being Islamophobic, and we prosecute them, put them behind bars.
I would do that. I would also, you know, extend it. And every hospital administrator who has made a political decision to allow a transgender people onto a female ward, and a rape takes place, which has happened a few times, should be in prison. You know, they ought to be accountable for their stupidity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, as we're really sort of talking about this sort of death of wokery, but it is clinging on for dear life to too large an extent still in this country. But
and can I say one more thing on the issue, Kev? Yeah. Which is, this isn't about Muslims. Now, there is unquestionably a link between the fact that these guys were from an Islamic background and Pakistan, but most Muslims are not like that. You know, those aren't the people I'm angry with. It is always the case, and I get called Islamophobic, and I'm not at all. It is always the case that it is the stupid white liberals who are to blame. It is always the case.
Yes. Well, again, I couldn't agree with you more. Rod, when we come back, we're going to talk about the two people who on the front of the Daily Mail were described as lame ducks. They are Rachel from Accounts Reeves and, of course, Tulip Sadiq, one of whom is no longer a lame duck. She is a dead duck.